Welcome to the West Ham Voice. Thank you for joining me. If you're new to this channel, or if you've watched the West Ham Voice before but yet to become a subscriber, there's a QR code that's going to appear in the top corner of this video. Click on that and it can take you straight to the subscription page after the show, and you can subscribe. Subscription is all free. All the content is free. And if you enjoy the show, please also do hit the like button below the video. And there's also a hype button. If you click on the hype button, it allows other viewers to watch this video as well. So it kind of promotes it. And if you're feeling quite generous, there's a membership scheme for the West Ham Voice, which gives you extra content for $1.99 a month. And all the proceeds from the membership scheme goes directly to Prostate Cancer UK. So thank you all for joining. And what are we going to talk about today? Well, looking at a reflection on the game against Burnley at the weekend. It's always good to spend a day or two to sort of sit back and sort of like take in the performance, whether it's a win, a draw, or a defeat, because there are certain things that come to mind and you can see the game a little clearer after a day or two. Now, there's huge significance to Saturday's 3-2 win over Burnley at the London Stadium. It was Nuno Espirito Santo's second victory in charge, the first time we've actually secured back-to-back Premier League wins since February, and the first time to have back-to-back successive home wins in the league since October 2024. It's a whole year. So that in itself is something to celebrate. And it's also answers why the atmosphere at the stadium has been somewhat stagnant over the past several months. The atmosphere on Saturday, by the way, was quite exceptional. It was really, really good. Nuno did say, you know, you give a little bit to the fans and they'll give you a lot more back. And that's exactly what's happened. Now, look, despite the first half also being more than a little nervy, with West Ham conceding an awful lot of possession and going a goal down, the players, that goal kind of woke them up. There's a renewed spirit, a renewed fight in the team these days, and the fans responded with passion. But why did it take more than half an hour or so for Nuno's tactics to take shape? Look, Nuno's 2 wins so far are beginning to create breathing space for a manager who arrived into a tense dressing room and a restless fan base. Results like this start to justify the choices he's making, and it can calm the narrative, at least for now. Burnley did take the lead through Zian Fleming's header on the 35th minute, with Max Kilman caught in kind of no man's land when his focus should have been to get much tighter to Fleming. Instead, he seemed to be drawn between, should he mark Fleming or should he mark a player that was on the right side of him? He should have gone for Fleming. You simply don't allow a striker so much space in the penalty box to have a free header. Look, we got a goal back. Callum Wilson's header just before half-time got us back into the game, and that changed the feel going into the break. In the second half, the decisive moments were provided by our substitutes. Tomas Soucek bundled home to put us ahead, and then he played a part in Kyle Walker-Peters' late finish that effectively sealed the win. Look, Burnley's Josh Cullen, he did get a stoppage time goal to make the final moments a little bit nervy, but the 3 points stayed with us. So which of our players shone? Well, you've got to give credit to Callum Wilson, whose presence was enough to keep the Burnley defenders occupied. Wilson's header on the 44th minute drew us level and reminded us why he still matters as a central outlet inside the box. That finish set the tone for the comeback and was a key goal in the contest's momentum, shifted the momentum our way. And then, of course, you got to look at Tomas Soucek, once again delivering from the bench. The super sub not only scored our second goal, but his shot, which was fluffed by the Burnley keeper, allowed Kyle Walker-Peters to score the third. Now, whilst many West Ham fans still deride Soucek, don't get it really, they still complain that Soucek doesn't have the skill to be in this West Ham side. But there's no denying that he keeps producing when it matters most. If there's anyone that epitomizes the West Ham way, I'd argue that Tomas Soucek is the epitome of the West Ham way. He's one of the best players to drift into the penalty box to anticipate a cross or, in the last couple of games, an error. And for the 2 games in a row, he did just that to great effect. He's a player who never complains if he starts or if he's on the bench or whatever. But the minute he's on the pitch, his aim is simply to do the best he can for West Ham. One of the most underrated players, I say, that sections of the fan base seem to just not respect. Kyle Walker-Peters, whether he starts or comes on from the bench, is continuing to prove that he was an astute free summer signing. He was introduced in the game from the bench, and he was really on the pitch to just secure the win. But he got on the score sheet in the 87th minute to give the game some breathing space. The goal came from Soucek's speculative strike, and the rebound was what Walker-Peters anticipated. Other players in the game, look, Alphonse Areola, he had a bit of a mixed day, to be quite honest with you. He made several important saves, without a doubt, kept us in the game, but he was left culpable for a late mistake that allowed Josh Cullen to grab their second goal, Burnley's second goal. He claimed he was impeded, but in fairness, he just fluffed his save. Aaron Wan-Bissaka and El Hadji Malik Diouf were under the cosh quite a bit in the first half, but made key interventions during Burnley's attacking spells when we were under pressure. But the defence overall kept their shape as we grew into the game. But for me, the man of the match was Mateus Fernandes by a long shot. He controlled the tempo of the game through midfield at moments when West Ham needed it most. He made decisive forward passes and showed the composure and energy Nuno wants from his central midfield players. Pundits singled him out as outstanding and an example for the rest of the side. Throughout the game, Fernandes dropped between the lines and received the ball whilst we were under pressure, and slowly helped to change the game where we started to control the midfield to prevent Burnley pinning us back, as they did in the first half. Fernandes repeatedly looked to progress the ball into the attacking area with his short, accurate passes, and it helped to pull Burnley's midfield out of position and created pockets for the likes of Wilson and our other attacking players to exploit. Fernandes gives Nuno a reliable box-to-box midfielder who we haven't had for quite some time, who can both shield the back line and he can start attacks as well, which is why his performance felt like more than just a one-off. It's a blueprint for how West Ham can control midfield battles going forward and turn pressure into attacking momentum. Look, I was a little bit critical of the price that we paid for Fernandes. You know, £40 million, I suggested, was probably £10 million too much. I thought he was a £30 million player. But if he continues to give us that kind of performance that he did against Burnley, then I dare say he'd be paying back a large chunk of that £40 million outlay. But what about Nuno and his tactics? Look, he approached this game. It wasn't the same in the way that we approached the game against Newcastle. This game felt a little bit more pragmatic, but pragmatic in a kind of a good way. Nuno knew that this game was likely to be a lot more physical. Nuno knew that he had to use his substitutions in a way that will tip the balance towards West Ham. And Nuno set a compact defensive block that sought to absorb Burnley's early momentum. We kind of invited a little bit of pressure on, but we were aiming to win second balls to hit Burnley on the counter-attack. Now, one would say, why would you do that at home? But I guess Nuno looked at this in a different way to the way Newcastle were playing. And like I said, he knew it was going to be a lot more physical, and he set us up accordingly. Look, Soucek and Walker-Peters, Nuno's subs were decisive. They were effective. Soucek's injection of energy and presence in attacking areas, plus Walker-Peters, as I said, he was on to secure our defence, but we had the added bonus with his late arrival to score a goal. Nuno's changed the way we play in the attacking third, with instructions now to emphasise more directness. The shift after half-time was more urgent, and better timing of runs into the box were created. But why did it take us half an hour or so to get into the game? Look, early on, the team struggled to establish midfield control in the first half. Passes were slower, and there were too many loose second balls that gave Burnley the initiative and the chance to take the lead through Fleming's goal. Burnley's early shape and physicality unsettled us, forcing us into reactive defending rather than proactive attacking. That's why the first 35 minutes felt like we were chasing the game instead of dictating it. But like I said, the changes that were made, especially with the way that Fernandes was utilised, helped to change that momentum. The equaliser just before half-time changed everything. It removed the urgency to chase and allowed us to reset for the second half. From that point on, Nuno's half-time tweaks and clearer instructions to play more direct into the box unlocked us, and the substitutes finished the job. If there's one intangible that's changed, it's the spirit. Under Nuno, there's a visible increase in fight, organisation, and resilience. The team has twice now come back from behind to win back-to-back games. That reflects a mentality shift. Soucek's willingness to affect games off the bench and the players' responses in the second half suggests a renewed internal belief. And collectively, they seem to be buying into Nuno's methods. This side looked more cohesive, more prepared to dig in when the match was ugly, and more clinical when opportunities arrived. That spirit is what turns a single win into a platform for better things to come. If it sticks, it's as important as any tactical change. This win is a significant step. It gives Nuno breathing room, it rewards supporters' patience and gives us something to cheer about, and it proves that targeted substitutions and a clear game plan can produce results even when the opening half hour or so was quite messy. The challenge now, I guess, is consistency. We've got to take this spirit and the tactical lessons into the fixtures coming up after the international break, because we've got some tough games coming up. We've got Bournemouth, of course, always a difficult game away from home. Then we've got the likes of Liverpool and Man United coming up as well. But who knows? If Nuno's tactics and the players' belief in those tactics continue to work, who knows what can happen between now, when the next international window is up and done and dusted, into Christmas and beyond. If we can still stay in touch with the teams above us, I know we're still in the relegation zone, but if we can still just keep in touch and then wait for that January transfer window to open, then maybe, just maybe, we're looking at much better progress going into the second half of the season. Thank you for watching and listening. Like I said, if you do want to become a subscriber, click on that QR code, and I'll see you all again soon.